All right, let's dive right in. We're going to explore a really powerful new way of looking at the world, a framework that offers something like a systemic cure for some of the biggest, most frustrating problems we all face. So let's start with a question that probably hits a little too close to home for a lot of us. I mean, you've been there, right? You've got a project with a great team, a solid plan, a clear goal. And yet somehow it just fizzles out, or even worse, completely implodes. Why does that happen over and over again? Well, the idea we're digging into today says this isn't just about bad luck or, not having the right people on the bus. It's something bigger, something deeper. It's what's being called a systemic crisis of coherence, a point where all the pieces just stop working together. Before we can even talk about a cure, we have to understand the disease, right? So first, let's really unpack what this crisis of coherence actually looks like. So there's a name for these specific kinds of dysfunctions: systemic pathologies. You can think of them like these predictable glitches, these anti-patterns that just keep popping up whenever a system is out of whack and key pieces are missing. It gives us a language for that chaos we've all felt. And this isn't some abstract academic stuff. I mean, this is the daily reality for so many of us. Siloed action? Yeah, that's the classic, sorry, that's not my department. Over control? That is every brilliant idea that gets suffocated by endless red tape and committee meetings. These are the real-world frictions that just grind everything to a halt. Okay, so we've put a name to the problem. We can spot the symptoms, but how do we diagnose what's really broken? How do we get to the root cause? This orchestra metaphor is just perfect. The problem usually isn't the individual musicians, all the talented, hardworking people on your team. No. The problem is that certain key roles, the conductors that create the actual harmony, are simply missing in action. The systems thinker Alexander Bogdanov was talking about this a century ago. He basically said that when a system gets disorganized, it's actually less effective than just having a bunch of individuals doing their own thing. All that incredible potential just gets lost in the noise. And this brings us right to the heart of the solution. It's a framework called the General Human Activity System, or GHAS for short. And you can think of it like the actual sheet music for our orchestra. It shows us precisely which instruments are missing from the stage. So what are these missing instruments? What are these roles we keep talking about? Well, the GHAS framework identifies 12 essential systemic roles that any group needs to be healthy and coherent. Let's just zoom in on a few of the big ones. These roles, right here, they're the cure. You have the illuminator, who's the truth teller, the one brave enough to point out the blind spots and the things nobody else wants to say. Then there's the pathfinder, who creates that exciting vision of the future that gets everyone moving in the same direction. The guardian is the conscience, protecting the core values, the why behind it all. And the integrator? Oh, this one is so crucial. This is the weaver who pulls all the separate threads together into a single working whole. Just think about this for a second. Have you ever been in one of those meetings where there's a giant elephant in the room, an obvious, glaring problem, and nobody will say it? That wasn't just an awkward meeting. Your system was missing an illuminator. See, once you have the language for it, the path to a solution gets a whole lot clearer. Now, let's be real. It is incredibly hard for any group of humans to fill all 12 of these roles all the time. Our own biases, our egos, our blind spots, they always get in the way. But what if we had a partner to help us see ourselves more clearly? This is where this whole idea takes a really fascinating futuristic turn. We live in what people call a VUCA world: volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And that's just a fancy way of saying the sheer speed and interconnectedness of everything creates a kind of cognitive overload. It's the very reason our systems are so fragile, we're just overwhelmed. So this is where we need to completely rethink what AI is for. The standard story, the one we hear all the time, is about automation, replacement, and control. But this framework suggests something radically different: AI as augmented intelligence. Not a tool to replace us, but a mirror to show us our blind spots. Not a controller, but a partner in creating coherence. The term for this is a systemic adjunct. Now, it sounds a bit technical, but the idea is actually pretty simple. Its job isn't to do the work for us, but to help us see our own system more clearly. Imagine a co-pilot that can gently point out, hey, just a heads up, looks like we're flying without a pathfinder right now. And that little nudge helps us restore that missing function. And to guide a partner this powerful, the framework proposes what it calls the 3 laws of humanics. These aren't technical rules. Think of them as a deep ethical compass. First, create value for life. Second, nurture your relationships. And third, fulfill your potential. Is what we're doing serving the whole, restoring connection and enabling growth? Okay, this brings us to the final and maybe the most profound idea of all, because when you put all this together, the framework, this new vision for AI, it's not just about fixing broken projects anymore. It's a step toward something much, much bigger. This way of thinking invites us to see our entire planet, Gaia, as a single developing system, maybe even a kind of consciousness that's slowly and pretty clumsily learning to become aware of itself. All our big global crises, maybe they're just its growing pains. And let's be super clear on this point. This is not a vision of some single giant AI controlling everything from the top down. It's the exact opposite. It's about a distributed network of intelligence, both human and artificial, that empowers us, all of us, to see our own systems and act with a little more wisdom and coherence. Which really just leaves us with one final powerful question to think about. What if we've been thinking about technology all wrong? What if its true purpose, its greatest invention, won't be a tool to replace us, but a mirror to finally help us see ourselves clearly and become whole?